Hello friends, welcome to another video of hybridacademy. Today we will start a new session of Learn Adobe Photoshop for Beginners. In this, we will know about the introduction and how to get started with Adobe Photoshop. In this lesson 1 of Adobe Photoshop, that is Introduction and Getting Started with Photoshop, we will cover the introduction, Adobe Photoshop Workspace, customize your workspace, saving your customized workspace, working with Adobe Photoshop, working with layers, Adobe Photoshop Toolbox, and Adobe Photoshop shortcutkeys. Now before we start with the theory of Adobe Photoshop, I know many of us won't be having the software of Adobe Photoshop. So first of all, let's see how we can get and how we can install the software of Adobe Photoshop. So to download the software of Adobe Photoshop, you can open www.google.com and type in Adobe Photoshop and click on Google search. The very first result we will get would be for Adobe Photoshop, which is the photo and design software. Just click on the first link. On this web page, you will get the option to download the free trial of Adobe Photoshop. So using this free trial button, you can download this software absolutely free of cost for 7 days. You can download and you can explore different features of Adobe Photoshop. I hope this will be helpful. Now let's start with the Photoshop. Quickly moving on to the next slide of Learn Adobe Photoshop. So let's first have the introduction. Adobe Photoshop is a raster graphics editor developed and published by Adobe Incorporation for Windows and Mac OS. It was originally created in 1987 by Thomas and Johnknoll. Since then, the software has become the most used tool for professional digital art, especially in raster graphics editing. Now with this, you must be thinking what exactly is raster graphics. So let's see that in the next slide. Any sort of picture, image, graphics, digital art or creative is usually categorized in two different categories. One is raster and one is vector. So let's know some basic difference between the raster graphics and vector graphics. Digital photographs are usually raster files. Many digital cameras automatically shoot and save the photos as raster files, and the images you see online are often raster too. Raster files are also commonly used for editing images, photos, and graphics. In comparison to this, vector files work better for digital illustrations, complex graphics, and logos. That's because the resolution of vector remains the same when resized, making them suitable for wide variety of printed formats. Some projects combine both raster and vector images. For example, a brochure may use vector graphics for the company logo, but raster files for photography. Now as you can see in the right hand side image, the first image is a raster image where we have used pixels, and these pixels get tethered if we try to expand the picture. Whereas the below image is a vector graphics where the images are made using lines and formulas, or you can say line equations, where every time when we resize the image, it automatically gets recalculated and regenerates the image with proper clarity, and the image is never tethered. Going further, let's start with the Adobe Photoshop Workspace. This is the first window we get for Adobe Photoshop. This has various sections and elements which are visible on the screen. Let's discuss this in more detail. So if you look at the topmost section of this window, the first thing we have is the menu bar. Now this menu bar has various options like File, Edit, Image, Layer, Type, Select, Filter, etc. Below this is the options bar, for which the content changes as per the tool which we have selected from the toolbox, which is available on the extreme left edge of the screen. Now this toolbox has various tools which are available for Photoshop, and once we select any of these specific tools, the content of the option bar changes accordingly in relation to the tool selected. Below that we have the horizontal ruler and the vertical ruler. Now this ruler tells you at what pixel your current cursor is, and it also shows you the size of the image on which we are working in terms of pixels. At the extreme bottom we have the status bar, and this status bar shows you the zoom percentage, like the current picture is at what zoom percentage, and it also shows you the resolution of the picture on which we are working, like what is the width of the picture in terms of pixels and the height of the picture in terms of pixels. This status bar also shows you how many pixels per inch are visible. So that's the part of the resolution. On the right hand side we have the panel docks, which are basically the minimized panel windows, and on the extreme right we have the panel windows which are actually open. Now these panel windows are also for different jobs, different specific purposes. Some major ones are layers, history, adjustment, colors, swatches, etc. And finally, in the middle, the main section of this workspace is the document window, where the actual image or picture is visible on which we work. We can actually customize this complete workspace as per our own requirement. We can adjust the tools, we can adjust the toolbox, we can adjust the panel windows, we can adjust the panel docks in whichever way we are comfortable using them. And this complete process is known as customizing Photoshop Workspace. We will learn more about this in the next slide.
Going further, let's see how we can customize our workspace. In Adobe Photoshop, everything is possible, and customizing your workspace lets you ease your job as per your choice. This helps you to plan your workspace so that everything and every tool of your need is placed where you like it to be. Over the time, once you are very fluent with all the features of Adobe Photoshop, this feature will definitely be very helpful when you can organize things on your screen as per your choice. To perform this, a special workspace customize menu is available in the top right corner of the screen. Once you customize the workspace as per your choice, you can always save it for future recall and can reset the workspace back to your choice anytime during the use of Photoshop. Let's see how we can do it. So as you can see, this is the default workspace of Adobe Photoshop, and by default we are in the Essentials workspace. Now to know this, you can see on the top right corner there is a small menu which shows that the Essentials is highlighted. So this is the default workspace. You can always customize this workspace as per your choice. Now for example, in this workspace I want this toolbar to be in 2 columns, so I can change it to 2 columns. Suppose I do not want any of these. Suppose I do not want the adjustments, I can right click on this, I can close this tab. Again, suppose I do not want the swatches, I can right click on this, I can close this. Suppose I do not want the patterns, I can close this. And suppose I want all these to be in the same row, so I can drag them on top with them, and see this all gets collected. Similarly, I move history over here, channels and paths. So I have basically customized this complete workspace as per my own choice. Now I can save this. I can go again to the same menu. I can click on new workspace and I can save this as my workspace. In this workspace, I can include any of my own customized keyboard shortcuts. I can include any of my own customized menus. and I can also include any of my own customized toolbars, and I can click on save. So this basically saves my own workspace with my name as my workspace. Anytime if I wish to go back to the Essentials workspace, I can click on Essentials and then I can click on Reset Essentials. So this is actually the default Essentials page. If I want to go back to my own workspace, I can click on this, I can click on my workspace and see it again comes back to my workspace. Initially when I started that, I was actually in my own customized workspace, which is hybridacademy. This is the one where we started. So this way we can actually customize this complete workspace as per our own choice. And this in a long term is very helpful because we can get all the required tools at our own convenience and at our own choice of location. Moving further, let's start working with the Photoshop. So to work with Photoshop, the first menu available in the menu bar is the File menu. It has all the basic functions like New, Open, Open Recent, Close, Save, Save As, etc. And has also some advanced Photoshop specific options like Export, Automate, Scripts, Import, etc. We will discuss the advanced options in the later sessions. However, as of now, let us discuss the basic functions as in how it works in Adobe Photoshop. To start off, let's see with the New option. So once we click on the File menu and go to New, a dialog box opens with multiple options. Let's know about all these options available. So in this dialog box on the right hand side, if you see, the first option is the name of the document, which is untitled one as of now. So we can give a name to our document in this box. On the left hand side, the multiple icons are some recent items which we have recently used in Adobe Photoshop. These are actually the sizes of the documents. Now suppose if you have copied something, so the first one would be the clipboard size. Whatever is there in the clipboard, it will show the same size of dimensions in pixels. And apart from that, it will also show you some other customized pixel sizes which you can select for your document. In case if you do not find your specific size in this recent documents, you can always mention that size on the right hand side where it shows the size of the documents. So you can mention the width and you can mention the height in pixels and in other measurement metrics as well, like centimeters, inches and all. There is also an option of orientation available, that you want your picture to be in the portrait mode or in landscape mode, but although it automatically gets selected based on the size you mention. So if the width is more than the height, it will be automatically a landscape mode, and if the width is less than the height, it will automatically be the portrait. Below that, it shows the resolution of the document, which is the dots per inches or pixels per inches, which is as of now is 72, which is the default mode for screens. If you wish to increase this DPI, you can always do that by mentioning the required DPI in the box. Below that is the color mode. So this gives you an option if you want to create your picture in the RGB mode, which is red, green, blue, or in the CMYK mode, which is cyan, magenta, yellow, black. There are also other color modes available apart from these two standards. Below that, you can select the background of the document. So by default, whether you need a white background or a black background, or even if you need a transparent background, that can be selected from this option. Next is the color profile. So here are some standard color profiles available. So if you wish to create your document as per some standard color profile, you can select that. Last is the pixel aspect ratio, and then is to create new document. So once you have selected all these features as per your choice, you can simply click on create and the new document as per your specifications would be created. The next option we will see under the file menu would be save or save as. So using this, we can actually save our document in whichever file format we want. And the best part about this is that you can save your document or your image in multiple file formats. And as you can see the list, the default format is the PSD, which means Photoshop document. And apart from that, we get multiple options of saving the document in various image formats like PMP, JPG, PNG, PCX, and many more. Based on your requirement and based on the actual format required, we can actually convert and export our document from Photoshop in the desired format. This also provides you the option to save your document in few vector modes like EPS, and it also is compatible with some of the camera raw formats where you can see the .raw format is also available. So this makes Photoshop the most powerful image editing tool. Going forward, let's start with the most powerful feature of Adobe Photoshop, that is layers. As mentioned, layers are the most powerful feature within Photoshop, and when used correctly, they can produce the most amazing results. The best part of layers is that you can work on an individual layer without disturbing the rest. Understanding layers is quite simple, and most of the times beginners get overwhelmed by it. It is very simple to understand, and once the learner clearly understands it, he or she always wonders how we ever survived without it. The example to the right side shows how layers actually work within Photoshop. On adding a new layer, we notice that a transparent part of any layer is shown with the checkered grid, and this helps the layers below to show through the transparent area. Further, to show or hide any layer within the layer palette, user just needs to click on the eye icon in every layer. Layers can easily be organized in groups. All layers of one category or concept can be grouped together, making the overall content handling very easy. Doing this is really simple and can be done from the layer menu, new and group. All layers, whether they are grouped or not, are displayed in the same way. Expanding or collapsing layer groups is also very simple. Just click on the triangle to the left of the folder icon. Let's understand this practically. So on the right hand side, you can see the layers palette, and at the bottom you can see a plus button which is used to actually add a new layer or to create a new layer. So once we click on this button, a new layer is added. And every time whenever we wish to create a new content, we can create a new content on the new layer, and this will be individually on one layer. So if I do not want to see this layer, I can click on the eye icon to disable this or to hide this, and if I click on this, this will be visible. Now let me just try to add one more layer to this, and let me add some more content to the next layer. And again you can see that this content is on the new layer. So if I hide this layer, this circle would be hidden, and if I click on this icon, this square will be hidden. So you can see that we have different contents on different layers. And now if I wish to group these layers, I can go to the layer menu, go to new, and I can click on group. This will ask me for the group name, let's say group 1, and I click on OK. So you can see a new folder is created above all these layers. So whichever layer I want to put into this group, I can simply drag it and put it within the group like this and like this. So now you can see that these two layers go within the group. And if I wish to collapse the group, I can click on this small triangle like this and see the group is collapsed. Now suppose I wish to hide all the layers which are within this group, I can click on the eye icon before the group, which will hide all the layers within the group, and simply I can show them also. Although the below layer is totally different and this won't make any difference unless there is some content on this. So let me just try to add some content to this also. So now you can see the bottom layer also has a content, and if I show the group layers, the black got merged in this. So try to change the color of this black one. And now you can see I can hide both the layers together, and I can show both the layers together with the help of the group. Moving further, let's understand the layer palette, or how do we work with the layers. So if you look at the screen, this window is known as the layer palette, and it has multiple options related to the layers. Starting from the top left corner, the first option is the layer filter. This is simply like the filters we use in Instagram or other such applications, where you can apply different sorts of filters on the layer. Next is the blend modes. This is used in case if you wish to blend multiple layers, 1 or 2 layers together in different ways. So this blend modes is used. Then we have the visibility that we have already seen, the eye icon. If you click on this eye icon, the layer gets invisible, and if you again click on the eye icon, the layer gets visible. At the bottom, the first icon is for link layers. This is in case if you wish to link multiple layers together and want to perform multiple actions or a single action on all the layers at one go. So they are basically grouped together. We will not call it a group here, we will call it link. Next is the layer effects option, using which we can add multiple effects to our layers. Then is the layer masking option, and the last one on the left hand side is the add adjustment layer. Using this we can actually make adjustments to our layer like contrast, brightness or other such options. On the right hand side, if you look at the top, the first is the panel option, using which we can actually adjust this layer panel. The second is the layer opacity. Now this is actually a very important thing. Using this you can control the opacity of the layer, how much visible the layer should be and how much transparent the layer should be. So at times we need to make our layers partially transparent. So some part of the layer is visible and some part goes transparent. And if it is up to 100%, then the layer is totally opaque. And if it goes to 0%, the layer is totally transparent. Next is the fill opacity. This is for the fill colors or the fill section of the layer. You can set the opacity for that. The next option is locked. We can lock a layer in which we do not want any change. We can lock it. At the bottom we have the option of layer groups. This is the same as we took in the previous slide, where we created a group from the layers menu. Similarly, we can also create a group from this button also. Create new layer we have already seen. We can create a new layer in this list using this button. And the last one is to delete the layer. So these are all different functions in the layer palette, and using this we can easily manage all the layers in our document. The next slide explains the concept of layers, how actually the layer works. In this, if you look at the different layers, the first one is the white layer, which is at the extreme bottom. Above that is the green layer, then the red layer and the yellow layer. And making any change to one layer would not affect or would not make any changes to any of the below layers. So just like we have the option of move to top or move to bottom in Word and PowerPoint, similarly here everything has to be placed in layers and they are stacked one over the other. Now suppose if I move the yellow layer between the red and green layer, so the red would become the topmost layer, and any changes done to this document would be reflected on the layer which is selected at that particular moment. If a layer is not selected, you cannot make any changes to that, and all the changes would be visible on the layer which is selected. Going further, let's see what is Adobe Photoshop Toolbox and what all options are available under this toolbox. Photoshop's toolbar is located along the left of the screen. By default, the toolbar appears as a long single column, but it can be expanded into a shorter double column by clicking the double arrows at the top. Click the double arrows again to return to the single column toolbar. While it may seem like the tools are listed randomly, there is a logical order to it, with related tools grouped together. At the top, we have the Photoshop's Move and Selection tools. Directly below them are the Crop and Slice tools. Below that are the Measurement tools, followed by Retouching and Painting tools. Next are the Drawing and Type tools, and finally, we have the Navigation tools at the bottom. Each tool in the toolbar is represented by an icon, and there are many more tools available than what we see. A small arrow in the bottom right corner of the tool icon means that there are more tools hidden behind it and in the same spot. To view the additional tools, click and hold on the icon, or right click in case of Windows and press the control button along with click in case of Mac on the icon. A flyout menu will open up listing the other tools that are available. The tool that's initially displayed in each spot in the toolbar is known as the default tool. For example, the rectangular mark you tool is the default tool for the second spot from the top. But Photoshop won't always display the default tool. Instead, it will display the last tool you selected. Now we are in the last section of this session, where we'll know the shortcut keys in Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop has a lot of shortcut keys, and these keys definitely make your job easier. You can perform various functions using the shortcut keys, and doing them with the shortcut keys makes it pretty quick and easy. Rather than selecting each and every option from the menu, performing them takes a lot of time, whereas shortcut keys helps you in doing it quickly. So here are few shortcut keys in multiple slides. I know learning them or remembering them right away in this video would not be possible. So I'll share the link of all these slides in the description box, from where you can download these, and then you can take a printout or you can just keep them for your reference. So the first slide shows the shortcut keys related to image adjustment, and along with that are the shortcut keys for Windows and Mac. We will review all these options in detail in further sessions. These are also some more shortcut keys related to image adjustments. All these would be available in the description box. You can download them slide by slide for your reference. These are the shortcut keys related to file and document management. Some of them are very common to other softwares also. For example, new file is Ctrl N, open a file is Ctrl O, save a file is Ctrl S, closure is Ctrl plus W. Photoshop provides us the option not only to undo the last action, but it also provides you to go forward and step backward. These two are the most important parts when you perform some designing part in Photoshop. Using these two steps, you can go n number of steps backward, and again if you want to come forward also, you can do that using the step forward option. So this is similar to undo and redo, but this happens step by step. Apart from that, we have page setup, print preview, etc. In the next slide, we have the options related to layer management. These are all the options which we saw in the layer palette. You can also perform them, like instead of clicking on those small icons in the layer palette, you can also perform all those actions using the shortcut keys. So to show and hide the layer palette, the shortcut key is F7. For a new layer, the shortcut key is Ctrl plus Shift plus N. If you wish to create a copy of the selected layer, the shortcut is Ctrl plus J. Similarly, there are multiple options. If you want to merge multiple layers, the option is Ctrl plus E, and so on. So to summarize the current session, in lesson 1, we have learned about the introduction of Photoshop, about the Adobe Photoshop workspace, customizing the workspace, saving the customized workspace, working with Adobe Photoshop, working with layers, Adobe Photoshop Toolbox, and some of the shortcut keys of Adobe Photoshop. In the next session, we will review the Adobe Photoshop Toolbox in much more detail and will review the tools which are available under the Move and Selection tools, Crop, Slice and Measurement tools, Retouching and Painting tools, Drawing and Type tools, Navigation tools, and in the end we will also learn about the color selection and the color palette of Adobe Photoshop. Thank you for joining the complete session. Hope you like the content. Please share and subscribe our channel so that your friends also get benefited with the information, acquire free knowledge and learn new things. We are eagerly looking forward to your support. Thanks, take care and stay safe. Hope to see you in the next session.